And welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I am Tim Capper along with Cliffy D. Hey, Cliff, it's this episode's a little bit different than what we have done before. I mean, we've had a couple of them through our 6 years of doing the podcast, but this is another one of those special episodes where we're just going to be talking with a very well-known and now former Montreal Alouettes alum, aren't we?
Absolutely. It's always exciting to be able to talk to players, whether they be current players or former players for the Montreal Alouettes, and being able to sit down and talk with a bona fide legend was definitely very exciting. So I'm very excited to present this episode to you folks. I hope you're ready for what I think is going to be a truly eye-opening chat with a true Alouettes superstar.
Yeah, that's right. And no matter what number you may have known him by, I think really... anybody who has been following the Alouettes in the latter years of his career will know his number very well. And just to give a little tease there to everybody there, Cliff, what number is that?
It's not 1. It's not 2. It's not 3. It's not 4. It's not 5. It's not even 6. How about
8?
Oh, no, you went too far.
Oh,
Too far.
Okay.
Number 7. Ladies and gentlemen, the Alouettes Flightdeck was very pleased and honored to sit down and speak with Alouettes legend John Bowman.
That's right. And I hope you guys do stay for the entire interview. Well worth the time that we spoke with him. And there's a lot of things that we did talk with him. And actually, to be fully transparent, this was an episode that took place over 2 days. So we wanted to make sure that if he had something that he wanted to talk to us about, we wanted to make sure that we gave him the time to do so. And as Cliff said, we were very honored to be speaking with him. So without further ado, let's speak with Alouettes legend, John Bowman. And with this episode is a gentleman who, I think both Cliff and my opinion, that if he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, once he becomes eligible, the people in the Hall of Fame got a couple of screws loose. On the line with us now, you know him very well. It's Mr. John Bowman. Hey, John, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, now
it took me a few years to get on.
Well, let's put it this way, John. We don't want to just, have you on for like 2 minutes, talk about, stupid cliches or whatever. We want to have the real John Bowman on and give you the space you deserve. Yeah. We got to give you your flowers, man.
That sounds nice.
We know you started off before you came to the Alouettes, and I'm actually interested to hear this. From, not being drafted in 2005, coming out of Wingate, you ended up playing in indoor football, and it was the middle rung of indoor football. And you played in the NIFL, and then you played in the United Indoor Football League.
Yeah.
First question I wanted to ask you, and this is 2005, by the way, for prefacing those who don't know where I'm talking about. How was it making the change from college football to the 50-yard indoor game when you first played for Daytona Beach?
It was actually, it was fun because, we didn't have to run a lot. So if we ran fast to the ball, you knock somebody into the wall and the play's over. And the play is over in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So it was just a bunch of fun and guys trying to make it. Like back then, I really didn't know too much about the CFL. Pardon my ignorance. We thought Canada was like all the way across the world from us in the South.
Mm-hmm.
Like we wanted to play in arena or we wanted to play in the NFL. And so after I got finished playing, I think 2003, everybody's like, "Oh, John, if you gain some weight," because I was like 215 pounds. It's like, hey, if you gain like 30, 40 pounds, you can play at the next level, because the NFL guys at that time in that specific era in the NFL were like 270, 280, Julius Peppers kind of guys.
Yeah.
And I was like 220, max. So I took the year off and I got up to like 240 and I played arena. And we had we had a blast. It was like terrible pay. It was $200 and $250 if we won. Our owner wrote us fake checks, so like guys would put them in their bank account and it bounced for days, and it was sad. But there was a bunch of guys that had a really good time hanging out with and chilling, just trying to get some film, get our name out there.
And also in 05 from Daytona, I think Daytona was barred from the playoffs for whatever reason that year. Then you signed with Sioux City Bandits, which is still around today because they're a pretty well-known franchise in indoor football. I remember while doing some research, John, for our interview, I remember just trying to find some old stories about you, and then I came across one from the Sioux City newspaper. They were talking about you and how well you were doing, because you actually started to make a name for yourself on the defensive side of the ball when you were playing in Sioux City.
Yeah, it was actually weird. Like, it's so crazy. Like, I had a good year in Daytona, but like our owner couldn't pay the bill, and the arena didn't want to pay for us anymore. So they was like, "Listen, you guys you're done."
Yeah.
So they said we got disqualified from the playoffs, even though we only lost like 2 games. So I ended up in Sioux City, Iowa, which I don't recommend for a lot of people. But again, I had a good time because just the team. Like if you played for the Bandits, everybody knew who you were.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up there with like 4 games to go, and like a couple sacks, touchdown, interception, fumble recovery. Like I was playing pretty good. And like you said, I started to get a little buzz. But again, I still had to wait my turn after that too.
In 06, and this is where we joke when we talk about the 6 degrees of separation, or 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, however you want to call it, where your ties to the CFL started when you played indoor football again in 06 for the Rome Renegades. Mm-hmm. This is where you happen to play, and I'm curious to know about this situation, John. When you actually were playing with which would be a future teammate in Marcus Brady, how is it that, I mean, how well did you get along playing for Rome, and how did you and Marcus get along at the beginning?
Well, I mean, I was the best player in the team. So Marcus was the quarterback, but I felt like I was the best player in the team, period. But so like, he was the quarterback. Everybody treated him with respect. We knew who he had told us about CFL that year. He's like, he pulled me to the side. He's like, "Hey, you need to be trying to come with me back to the CFL." I was like, "Oh, what's the CFL?" And he explained it to me. So like, it wasn't just him. It was Marcus. We had another offensive lineman named Dwayne Morgan, who played for Edmonton too. I think Pop came down to look at those 2 guys, and here I was, I guess, balling out. And Pop was like, Pop actually told me the story. He's laughing. He's like, "Who is this guy on film, like just buzzing? I just came to watch the quarterback."
Yeah. And
I was just flying around. But me and Marcus always got along. You know what I mean? He had TVs in his car, so on practice or something, or after practice, we sit in this car and watch some TV or whatever. And then we came up to Montreal. We were roommates. Me, him, and Biscuit, Devon Claybrooks.
Yeah.
Actually, I got some ties to a lot of coaches, but me, him, and Biscuit were roommates. But Marcus, we came to Montreal in 06. He had already played for Hamilton and Toronto, so he had told me what to do, what to expect. Tried to explain to me about the ratio. I didn't know what that meant at the time. Mm-hmm. He tell me about exchange rate. It was great back then. It was like 90 cents. But he was a good dude. He helped me a lot, and he's probably the only reason why I got to Montreal, because if Pop wasn't looking for a backup quarterback to AC, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So that's actually, I love hearing that, because I know in the early days when Pop was there, Pop's the type of general manager who would look everywhere for players.
He was scoured the earth.
Yeah.
And me and Billy Parker had this conversation a week ago. Jim Pop will go to the ends of the earth if somebody said this guy was a baller. Mm-hmm. And that's how he got his name. Like, he was a worker. Like, he put in the work. He cut his tooth in the CFL scouting, for Saskatchewan. So, like, he would go, I'm living proof that he would go to legit ends of the world to find good football players.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned Billy Parker. There was also Gerald Brown. There was, if it had not been for, I guess, how Jim Pop worked, again, as you were saying, neither you nor a lot of these other players would ever have been heard of and made a name for themselves in Montreal or in the CFL.
Yeah. I mean, Jim Pop, I owe a lot of my career to that guy. You know what I mean? Not even just bring me up here, just fast forward, 10 years after in 2015 when some coaches thought I was done, and Jim Pop, came in and he's like, listen, y'all wake up, and I went on to have about 20 sacks that year. So, I owe a lot to Pop, and it's hard to repay him for everything, but he knows how I feel about him.
How is it?
Awesome.
How is it used to getting to so you go from college ball to 50-yard fields to now you're going to 110-yard field? How is it your first rookie camp and getting used to the Canadian game?
It was tough. It was a struggle. Like, first of all, I just played like 10, 12 games in Rome, Georgia, and so like my legs were already shot, and so I came to camp. Like, I was in shape, but I was fatigued, so I had to grind my way through. And they had that back then. They had Anwar, they had Tug, who had just come off a Rookie of the Year. They had what's his name? True Luck, Arkell True Luck.
Arkell, another guy from Arena. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I was in the back of the bus, and I came to camp late, so I was behind some other rookies, Petey Achelano, Dion Holtz. I was behind a lot of guys. But I just fought my way through. Like, I was tired every day. Coach was like, "You all right, John? You need to take a break?" Nope. Like, I would go into the training room, get my ice, get my stim, whatever, and just grind. And Pop, I think they were about to cut me in 2006. And Pop was like, okay, Ed got hurt. Ed Filion had got hurt in practice. He's like, well, just put Bowman in that 3 technique for the second through fourth quarter. So, like, I had to play 3 technique at 235 for 3 quarters, and I held my own. I had a couple sacks. They seen how tough I was, and that spring that training camp game against Winnipeg set me up.
Wow.
The rest, as they say, is history.
I was about to say, of all the times we almost never knew the name John Bowman. That's crazy.
I was so close to the cutting board. Jim Pop will probably tell you to this day, like, if I could not have played 3 technique, and not to say I played it well, I was just feisty, like, whatever. Yeah. Like, somebody's going to get me, I'm going to get them back. That was my mentality. Like, you don't play football. I didn't play football pretty. Like, everything I did was gritty. Like, I worked hard. So that was the mentality that he wanted. But if I couldn't play 3 technique, I would have never been heard from.
Go ahead, Cliff. Go ahead.
All right, I was going to say, now that you've gotten yourself pretty much ensconced in Montreal, what were your first impressions of not just being in Montreal, but being in Canada altogether?
Well, my first impression in 2006 was like, oh, Canada stinks. But that's only because we went from the airport right to Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu.
Okay.
And like, we skipped right through Montreal. I didn't know what Montreal was. I was like, oh, they only speak French here, and there's nothing to do. Like, nothing to do. I think we went to Route 66 like 10 times. It was bad. But as soon as we got to the city, like after the preseason was over, we got to the city, and you see how diverse and I'm from the South. Like, I was born in New York, but I grew up in North Carolina. So you go to a city like Montreal with every different ethnic background you can think of, every type of festival you can think of, every kind of different food you can think of. like I was blown away. Like, and the women there are gorgeous, and that stroked my interest at the beginning too. But it's a beautiful city, man, and most of Canada is great. You know, like you got some bad towns like Saskatchewan and Hamilton, all are fun towns, but their fan base is loyal to a fault there. So like it's not even throughout the league, throughout the cities, like even if the town isn't like Montreal, like Toronto, like Vancouver, they still love their football teams and things like that. So it's parts of the town that make it special, just not my kind of special. Mm-hmm. But I do. I'm going to miss Canada. Like I love Canada, and I'm for sure I'll be back one day.
Yeah. Right. With your first year in 06, you finally get used to the game. They have you in where I don't know where your residence was at that time, where you're living, what part of the city, but
we were downtown.
Were you? Okay. Yeah. What was it like in the locker room? Being a rookie. I know you can look back at it now, but what was it like being a rookie in that locker room? New city, new game. How did your teammates treat you?
Well, they treated me fine because they knew like I was a worker.
Yeah.
And like so I didn't come in there like I played Division II. I didn't play in the NFL, like whatever. Like so I didn't come in there with any big head aspirations. I came in there to play football. And the thing that helped me a lot, like I walked into a locker room with 7 Hall of Famers, with another 5 on the cutting edge of the Hall of Fame. So like only thing I had to do was do my job, and that's what Jonesy told us. He's like, Bo, I mean, you're going to be starting some games. Some games you're going to come off the bench. Some games you ain't going to play. He said, only thing we need to do is for you to show up when your number's called. And so games I played, I think I played like 12 or 14 games my rookie year. I played as good as I could. And that was all they asked for me. Some games I had to sit due to injuries and Canadian rules and stuff like that. And that's what I did. But, walking into that locker room every day, you see AC who's busting his butt to get it done, to get us to a Grey Cup. And you got Stu and you got Flory and OKK, these guys. Like, you just want to play hard. But we had a great mix. Like we had guys like Cahoon, who was strictly professional, but he knew how to have fun, and he was a jokester too. And he had a bunch of rookies. Me and Chip were rookies. Marcus Thale were rookies. We talking about guys who become entrenched into the Alouette culture forever.
Yeah. So
like we just had to play our part, not mess up, not disturb the rhythm of what the team had going on. And that's what we did. Chip had to back up Timothy Strickland, and Dwayne Butler. And it was phenomenal, the amount of guys, the amount of talent that was in that locker room. Sad that we got cheated in the Grey Cup that year. But, we had a great time, and it was really fun. And they accepted all of us.
Yeah.
Ben Cahoon treated me just like I was AC. It was never any favoritism or anything like that.
I've spoken to many players. Some claim it doesn't matter what their stats are. Some say, sure, it matters to me. That second week, in week 2 versus Hamilton, you finally get your first forced fumble. Did you look back at that? At that point, did you say to yourself, I think I'm going to do okay in this game? Or was it at any other point where you said, where you thought to yourself, I think I'm going to do pretty good in this game?
Well, I mean, like I remember the play. It was against the running back was Ronick, I think, and he just ran through my hole and I hit the ball. So it was like I mean, I don't make it want to seem like it was insignificant,
right?
But it's just me playing like how I do. Like I held my position, and it's crazy that I still remember the play. And the guy, he tried to run through me as I was being blocked, and I just swiped at the ball and I remember Chris Jones like going berserk on the sideline, like, yeah, this is the effort we need, this is what we like. And I didn't even know what I did until we watched film 2 days later because I was just playing football, And but I always knew I can play. It was just me getting used to being a yard off, getting used to the no holding calls, getting used to the up and down nature of being a rookie. Like I played offense, I played special teams, so I had to learn a whole playbook. It was just once I got that down, I found my rhythm a couple years later, and I was good.
Yeah, and then just a couple weeks later, you get your first of what people became to know you for. You got your first sack versus Winnipeg in Week 5.
In Winnipeg.
Yeah.
It was it was crazy because like now that I'm thinking about the sack in my head, like I had the worst celebration ever, and like I didn't know because like back then when you got a sack and being a rookie, whatever you up and down off the roster, you don't know when the second one's coming. Like I only had 2 that year. I think the other one came against Saskatchewan a couple of weeks later, but yeah, we just like I was just having fun, and that was how I played.
I've got to ask this, and I'll let Cliff get to his next question. How do you're dead on with when you got your second sack? How do football players remember these details when I can't remember my locker combination?
I mean, I only had a few of them, so no. But you just like when you only had 2 in a year. I think I had two. Yeah, I had 2 that year. Like what those 2. So like good memory. I was never diagnosed with a concussion, I guess.
Do you think it was another thing too? Because you remember fondly back on your rookie year. Do you think is that why it stands out the most? Because
for sure. Like my rookie year, I had to earn my check. Like everything I got, like because like I'm saying, when you're a rookie and you're not a star. Obviously, I wasn't a star. I wasn't like Chip was. Like we already knew who Chip was going to be. He ran like a 4.2.
Yeah.
Like when you're a worker bee like me. And you're up and down off the roster, and I'm coming off a 12-game season in already in arena football. Like I worked for everything I got, and out of all the coaches, like every coach would tell you, no matter what, like if they thought I was sucked or if they thought I was the best thing since sliced bread, they would say he always worked, and that was one thing I tried to hold my hat on.
Yeah, Cliff.
All right, now. That rookie season of yours, you end up going to the Grey Cup, coming up short against the BC Lions. 2 years later, go back to the Grey Cup at home against Montreal, come up short again. At what point, like, do you still have that? You get that wonder if, am I doing so? What am I doing? How do I get over that hump? Like, do you ever get those thoughts in your head, or is it just kind of like it's coming? I just got to keep working at it.
Well, at that time, like. I thought going to the Grey Cup was easy. we went 4 times in 5 years, and I never sniffed another one. But no, like I didn't know. Like if that question is better suited for older guys like AC and them. Like because I just worked, and like in 08, 06 and 08, I wasn't like people didn't know me for anything. Like I remember reading a report when somebody's like, "Oh, Bowman is a decent gap filler for the next, great defensive end we're going to have after Anwar." And I was like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's all people expected of me was just hold the position down until the next great defensive end comes. And so, like, nobody knew who I was in those years. So back then I was just like, don't mess up. Like, don't be the one known for messing up and blowing the game and coming up short or anything like that. Don't do anything stupid. So like at that time I was still trying to earn my keep. And like we already knew in 08 when Tressman first got here, and Billy Parker and Gerald Brown, those guys came in, and Josh Burke and Jeff Parrott, like we already knew we was a good team. We were ahead of the curve. Like we were ahead of where we were supposed to be in 08. I think the numbers had us to win 2 or 4 games in '08. We ended up winning like 8, 9, or 10 and going to the Grey Cup. And in 2009, we already knew, like, we thought we were going to go undefeated.
Yeah, and you damn near did too. I remember 15-3. Like, wow.
Yeah, we had a great year, but we already knew what was in our locker room. So, like, in '08, when we played against Calgary, and Calgary, like, they scored 1 touchdown right before the half. And they didn't score another touchdown. They kicked their field goal kicker one play of the game. So it was crazy. Like, defensively, we felt like we played good. I'm sure AC and them wish they could have did some more in that game. But, you know, like, for us, it wasn't it was, for me personally, individually, establishing myself and trying to be professional and not being the one who loses it for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, talk about when you finally do get that brass ring, when you do finally win that Grey Cup. And the Grey Cup, your first Grey Cup, without question, the most memorable Grey Cup in modern history, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I don't care. Maybe if you're a Saskatchewan fan.
Yeah. No, it's still memorable. It's still memorable, but for a different reason.
Talk to us about your thoughts during that game, like just like all the highs, the lows, everything that went into it. Talk to us from John Bowman's perspective about the 2009 Grey Cup.
Well, I mean, it's actually, tell you the truth, the first 3 quarters felt like they were like 5 minutes. Like the first half, I don't even remember blinking because like we open up. They get a fumble and a touchdown, an interception, a touchdown, something like that. Like we open up bad offensively and defense. Like coach said, hey, just hold on. You know what I mean? The AC and them are going to right the ship, and we're going to turn it back up in the second half. And like we went in at halftime, it was guys defeated. It was a lot of defeat all through the first 3 quarters, and I don't know what sparked this in the fourth quarter. I think Ooze might have came to the sideline and he said something like he really fired up the boys and then Billy had got an interception, and then one of the most pivotal plays of that game was Boulay saving a Brian Bratton muff punt. Mm-hmm. You know, that would have really put on a wrench in the plans. But the whole game was a blur. It was fun. It was hard fought. It was a close game through and through, except for that we got to the last 5 to 8 minutes. We hey, we got to change something. And, you know, AC and Jay Rich and Coburn, they did their thing. And Ben Cahoon with a great layout catch in the end zone there. It was a great game. And it's just crazy to talk about it. I'm visualizing in my head. It was just the long faces went to excitement in 5 minutes. It was a great game to be a part of.
And then watching the kick, both kicks essentially.
So like I already knew it was like I'm on the wing, the whole middle. I had nobody on me, so I got a great view of the kick. And I was like, you know, we were going to kill Damon. Like, first of all, we fought and clawed to get back in this game. You do nothing the whole game. And I love Damon, but he botched some punts. He had some bad punts. He had missed that field goal, and I was going to kill him. Then he was like, oh, I knew they had too many, whatever. You didn't know that before the kick. You just found out after. But just seeing it, like I saw it the whole time, and like I had my head down, but looking down at the flag, seeing we got a reprieve, that saved the day. And I don't think the first kick was like, I don't know, I don't kick field goals, but it's like 33 or 38 yards. So I don't think it was that. I didn't think it was that difficult. I thought it was money in the bank.
Mm-hmm. Now, we spoke with Ben Cahoon for a couple of years ago regarding the whole thing. Damon claims that he saw the flags before the kick happened. Ben doesn't believe it at all. So
play runs.
Okay, I was just curious. Like I know you said you had your head down and maybe you were just focused on the task at hand, but
no. Like I was moping. I had my head down moping. But they don't throw it because the player, the 13th guy, can run off the field. So they don't throw it until the ball is snapped. And then, like, by that time, his head is supposed to be down looking at the ball.
Right.
So he shouldn't see the flag whatsoever. But that's a great story to tell people.
It's all about the legend, right?
I missed a 60-yard field goal going into the wind. You know, it's a great story, but listen, like me being a football player, I know like they don't throw the flag because the play doesn't start until the guy snaps the ball. The guy can still run off. And a kicker's mechanic should be down looking at the ball by then. So if he saw the flag, he was going to miss the kick the whole time.
Man.
I still love him, though. Like, if you listen to this, Damon, I love you. Like, he's still my guy. Because he had a great year other than that. Like, he had a great year that year.
That's true. He statistically had an extremely good year. It's just that one particular game, like you said, the first three quarters were just forgettable. But you're only as good as your next play, right? And
agreed.
Once that ball goes to the uprights, it's all in the past, right? It's just,
from villain to hero.
Yep.
In 30 seconds.
Now, talk to us about the Grey Cup celebration afterwards, because this is the one thing that a lot of those players from those 09, 2010 teams talk about is the celebrations in Montreal. Talk to us from your perspective of it.
I mean, obviously, I can't tell you what went on, but I'm just gonna combine both years of 9 and 10. Well, 2010 was less because I had a girlfriend at the time. But like those 2 weeks, 3 weeks post Grey Cup were the blurriest of my life. Like Montreal, I mean, you got to think the town hasn't won a championship since 2002, you know, and they always wait for the Habs to become good again, and that's been since like '93. But you know, the town just likes to win, and that's the kind of town Montreal is. So when we won, they brought the red carpet was rolled out everywhere. It was amazing. It was crazy. I've never partied like that in my life. I've never felt so. And I'm a humble guy, but I never felt big before in my life until that year, and just seeing the doors open and the opportunities and stuff like that. And I was a free agent. So, like, no, I had just resigned. Excuse me, I just resigned. So, like I was going to be in Montreal another 3 years. So, just in 2009, just having that was icing on the cake.
Man.
Yeah.
Every time I think about, like I said, just thinking about it gives me chills. Just it's like, incredible.
I've never seen. I don't know the final numbers. It was 200, 300,000 people on St. Catherine that day. I don't know. They said between 3 and 4 and 5. I don't know how many 100,000 people it was, but it was ridiculous. Like you couldn't hear the next guy on the float standing next to you. It was crazy. Like 2009, especially. 2010, I think they just got whatever. They're like, they're going to keep winning again. Mm-hmm. So they just became used to it. But 2009 was ridiculous. Like, doing everything. It was crazy.
Now, after that championship, you get that championship experience underneath your belt. At what point did you feel like you actually truly belonged as, like, one of the premier players of the Canadian Football League?
Yeah, so like honestly, and I don't. You guys know me. I don't toot my own horn, but in 2009, like I should have won Defensive Player of the Year. Like that's the way I feel. That's the way I didn't even get nominated for my team, and that goes for a few times. But like 2009 was the year. Like I was like, okay. Excuse me, I'm lying. 2008 Grey Cup. Like I didn't have any sacks, but just the amount of hits I had on Hank. I had 6 tackles or whatever, but 2008 Grey Cup was when I felt like, okay, I can do this. And that year I'm going against the guy who won like O-lineman of the year and rookie of the year. Forget his name, but he played left tackle for Calgary. So 2008 Grey Cup was the game I felt like I've arrived. And 2009, I think I had like 12 sacks or something like that. And I led the league in sacks, forced fumbles recovery, tackles from a D lineman. So I should have won Defensive Player of the Year, but congrats to John Chick.
Yeah. Now, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to say, you look back at your at this time in Montreal, and a lot of people will remember this, and we've heard this from many different players, but we wanted your side of this thing. But what was it like being a player under Coach Mark Trestman?
I mean, if you played defense, you felt a little slighted, but Trestman's a great dude. He's just like he's tunnel vision, so he knows what he wants. He's well prepared, whatever.
Right.
But everything we did was for AC. Like everybody else was like second tier. You know what I mean? And I love AC. I love Trest, whatever. I still talk to him to this day. But everything we did was for AC. AC was the only reason he felt like we had a chance, and we felt otherwise. And I don't know, but I've heard from some backup quarterbacks at the time, like why they didn't come back was because they didn't feel like they had a chance to, to learn and develop because everything was AC dominant. And I mean, whatever. AC is a great quarterback, so you can't fault Trestman for that. But it was tough. It was tough, and it was good and bad. Like,
yeah,
it was tough, like getting blamed for things or not feeling the same love that the offense felt. But we were winning, so like winning cures everything.
Actually,
that's true.
You brought up something, and I want to follow up on it. I know you're on the defensive side of the ball, but you happen to mention how some quarterbacks did not come back because they didn't feel that it was the AC show, which we know why, and we understand why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
In your opinion, because you've been through the good and the bad in Montreal, do you think that particular thing of the team not developing a backup quarterback allowed the team to falter as it did? As of the last 5 out of 6 years or 6 out of 7 years.
For sure. I mean, and during that time, we had some good defenses and whatever, and we had some great receivers, but it was such a revolving door at quarterback. It's hard to build stability and whatever. And listen, I don't blame Trest. Whatever, like that's his job is to play AC and. AC's job is to play quarterback. So,
right.
But every team that struggles, or 90% of teams that struggle in football, NFL, CFL, they don't have a consistent quarterback. Some teams have a good quarterback, but their defense stinks. So we get that, but that's very rare when that happens. But like that was probably one of the main reasons why we had some lean years.
Yeah.
All right. Well, defensively, I mean, like you definitely set the standard for everybody. But I know sometimes you're only as good as who your coach is. And we actually had one of your old coaches or defensive coordinators, I should say, on a couple of weeks ago in Jeff Reinbold, and he had nothing but love for you. Talk to me about playing for Jeff Reinbold.
It was a quirky dude. I mean, I like Jeff. Like I got hurt that year in 2012. I told my MCL whatever in training camp, so I had to have surgery. But like I told them, and I told them privately, I told them out in front of everybody that year in 2012. I learned the most about football than I've ever learned in my life. Like because we played a different defense, we played like a 3-5 or I don't know what it called. It was a hybrid. And I was playing a lot of linebacker, or when I was down, I was playing a 4-eye. It was just inside the offensive lineman. But I learned a lot about coverage, about the reasons why they do stuff. And like before, I just would line up and go rush the quarterback or tackle the running back. But when I had to think and react and read, like he opened my eyes to a whole nother level of defense that I never knew. And I respect him for it. He caught a lot of bad flack for whatever happened in 2012. But we weren't very good up and down that year. I can't think of one part of our team that was good in 2012. But he tried, and hats off to him. He's a good dude. He means well, and he compliments me to this day. John, I've never seen another guy had to play for 9 defensive coordinators and still put up all-stars for all of them. That's one of those things a lot of people don't really see. Like I played for a lot of coaches, and I had to remain consistent for a bunch of them. But definitely a good time with Coach Ryan Bolt.
Now, on the flip side, was there any coaches that you would have rather not played for? We'll start defensively, but I'm kind of leaning towards something, and we'll get to it in a bit. But as far as DCs go, like,
for sure, like me and Thorpe butted heads. What me and Thorpe was like, it's tough to realize why we butted heads when I did everything. I broke my back for this dude, but he's one of those ungrateful coaches. I didn't have a lot of coaches I didn't like him. Probably my D-line coach my rookie year. His name was like Mike Miller or Coach Miller or something like that. He was a bit of a douche. But it's not very many coaches where I could say, they're just. Excuse me, Coach Keith Willis was. He's up there with Thorpe. So, but that's 4 coaches max in 14 years. So it's not too bad.
All things considered, that's not too bad at all. Could definitely be a lot worse. And again, you're the kind of player that I also get the impression that what are you going to tell John Bowman that he doesn't already know too, right? So, but the thing is, like I never acted like that. Like I never big headed anybody. I always went to practice. Like even when I was hurting, I practiced whatever. So I never used me being whatever I did in Montreal hang over the head of any coach. All right, and now this is going to lead into a discussion, especially a discussion we had with Nick Lewis back during Grey Cup, because Nick's got nothing but love for you as well. But he was telling us a few stories about yourself and Tom Higgins. That was quite the interesting relationship it sounded like you guys were having. Well,
I mean, the thing with Higgins was, like, I didn't have an issue with Higgins. I just didn't like what Higgins said when they benched me in 2015. Higgins did an interview in BC when he said players are usually the last one to learn the expiration date. That's the only thing I ever had that negative that I had against Higgins. But the reason why they benched me was because of Thorpe. So, like, I already knew what he was doing, but he didn't have to say that. Like, if he would never said that, he would have still been the head coach because they won in BC, which was something we rarely did. So, like, he would have still been the head coach. You just don't come out and say that about players who's done nothing but represent the team and the city. And clearly, I wasn't done. Like, I got benched. I think I had 6 sacks, and I was leading the league. And when I came back 3 games later, I was still like top 2 or 3 in the league, and I ended up leading the league that year. So, like, that the only thing I ever had about Higgins was that comment he made. And, I still haven't talked to Higgins to this day. Like, I see him in Calgary. He comes to the games. He comes to sit by a locker room. I don't talk to him. You don't talk about people like that, my opinion.
Does that give you motivation, though, John? Because, obviously that year you get benched. This gets said of you, but yet you make the All-Star team. You make the East All-Star team. Just to yourself, was that one of the ways to basically telling them, hey, well, F you. Look what I can do. You benched me and you made a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. And then that wasn't just to him. That was to the 3 guys that had a hand in benching me that year. Yeah. But, like, I use, like, and everybody's different. Some people live off of you got to pep them up in order for them to play good. Like, I don't. Like, I'm going to play as hard as I can, but what motivated me was the naysayers and the doubters, and that's what kind of sprung me to life a little bit. Mm-hmm. Even in 2019, when everybody was like, "Oh, he played terrible in 2018," little did they know I had displaced my shin in training camp. I had tore my knee. I had ripped my elbow muscle off, or my elbow tendon. 2018 was tough, but whatever. I had a great time for the most part. 14 years, if you don't get some criticism, what are you doing?
As for those who don't know, who just we're just Joe fans, what is it like for you as a player being benched? And having to go through that, because I'm sure a lot of we go to work every day. We may get crapped on by our bosses for whatever reason, and I'm sure it's not the same thing as being a player who is playing for everybody.
Yeah.
But yet you're being benched.
It was definitely tough. It was a tough pill to swallow, because it was no just course for it. It was just two guys basically thought they want to reinvent the wheel, and one guy who's the head coach that tried to go along with it. Mm-hmm. But it's a life lesson. No matter what you do for people, a lot of people are still ungrateful. But again, I didn't let it stop me. I still played pretty good that year. And that was it. It was just a small blip on the radar, man. My overall experience in football was wonderful.
All right, let's talk about the paradigm shift that happened in 2019. I mean, you think about it, the start of the year. I mean, this was a recipe for a complete and utter disaster, especially after years of, let's call it what it is, futility from the team. But then 2019 comes along. New head coach comes in 6 days before the regular season starts. New quarterback steps up to the plate, and everything just seems to fall into place. Talk to us about the 2019 season, just how everything sort of just fell into place and things just exploded the way they did for Montreal.
It's going to be kind of tough to say this without ousting a lot of people, but 2019 wasn't really supposed to happen. It was a lot of negativity from the onslaught of that year, man. The locker room, not the locker room, but from the ops point of view, mm-hmm. or football, from the upper level football side of it, from the coaching staff, it was a lot of turmoil, and there's a lot of finger pointing, and there's a lot of I think I can do it better kind of situation. But like you said, Kahari stepped in. He took the handles right away. He's like, listen, this is how we're going to do it, guys. If we don't win, if we don't win, it's not going to do from the lack of preparation. Basically, it's going to be because somebody beat us because they earned it. So, that first game was actually a close game in Edmonton, close-ish kind of game. That second game, we all thought he was crazy. I think it was 33-10. I can't remember. It was a blowout. It was disgusting. But we came back and won the next 3 games. And he's like, listen, y'all just have some faith in me. And, even through unpopular opinion, Cavis was one of the guys that had faith in him. And Cavis did a great job of trying to make the locker room professional. And Cavis got some blame from some stuff. I don't know about whatever. But Cavis did some right things in there that a lot of people don't give him credit for also. But he tried his best, when he got the job. And people forget Cavis wasn't never a GM. He was always a coach. But when he got the job, it wasn't left in the best situation. It was when Pop left, the Alouettes were in shambles, basically. And the guy was kind of put in a position where he just had to do what best he could, and he did the best he knew how to do. But coming out and winning the last few games and getting the team back into the playoff run, it felt good. It was definitely a blessing, especially coming from nobody expecting us to do much, and us believing in each other, and the locker room was feeling good. And like you guys said, it all started with belief in the quarterback, because Vernon wasn't even starting quarterback that year. At the beginning of 2019, it was Pip, and it was
Schultz.
Matt Schultz. But you know what I mean, those guys got injured. VA was Wally Pipp. You know what I mean? He was Lou Garrett. He just came in. Oh, excuse me, Mickey Mantle, and he just came in and took the job, and you know that's how it was. But and Trestman said this a lot too. He's like, if you have faith in your quarterback, or if people believe in your quarterback, then that's half the battle. Yeah, half the battle is having a good quarterback, and the other half is having people believe in him. And the way VA played for the majority of the season, a lot of people started believing in him, and you know he got the respect for the team.
Mm-hmm. And also too, I think took a lot of people by surprise. I think league wide, it was just the fact that as Montreal kept winning games and just winning people over, and even the way you guys won those games, and just restoring that passion, that fire that Montrealers have for football. I mean, you saw it on the sidelines, like just seeing how like fans were just becoming a part of the game. Yeah. At Percival Molson Stadium, like that.
Yeah, going from having like 8 to 10,000 fans to having 21,000 fans, you know, felt like overnight, but you know, it was a slow build up, but you know, it felt good to bring that back to the city. And I was happy to be a part of it, because they when they fired Cavis and whatever, they could have cut me too. They could have like, oh, nah, Bowman's out too. Like whatever, they could have done whatever. But for me to be a part of that was special. And one of the most special nights I remember was playing Calgary, and I don't know what happened or who queued up some music, but you know the lights was out and everybody had their cell phones out, and it was a game that was coming down to the last play or two. I got a sack, I think, like right at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. And that game was special, man. And that's the kind of atmosphere Montreal could be. And I was just glad to be a part of it.
You're not the only person, John, who said that about what Cliff and I have dubbed the Firefly game, because
it was crazy.
It was. I mean, even to this day, you know, the Owls are still using just that to promote and to hype up, you know, what's coming up for the 2021 season. And it's, you know, as you said, something changed in 2019 that fans who have been around for a long time have not seen in many, many years. And on top of that too, what you guys pulled off versus Winnipeg was
that restored some belief. I mean, if not even belief, that restored some excitement, because you had a team that was down by like 30 and a half. Like I think the first quarter, I opened my eyes. It was 21-0 in the first. I was like, what the heck is going on? And then, you know what, the crazy play that doesn't get talked, like everybody remembers the touchdown, the comeback, whatever, Winnipeg catching the 2-point conversion. Ryan Brown catching that interception right before halftime. They had the ball on like the 40-yard line with like 30 seconds to go, and they tried to get cute, throw a little screen play, and Ryan Brown got an interception. And that we knew that, like, I went into the locker room, I said, hey, we saw all their tricks. They can't trick us anymore. I mean, a fake spike, and the running back leaked up the sideline for 60 yards. You know, like they ran all their trick plays. And so we gathered ourselves in the locker room at half, and we came out in the second half, and, you know, we played pretty good ball.
Yeah, again, like the Firefly game, a lot of people will remember the miracle on Mount Royal that day, because as you said, you know, as we're saying, it's brought back pro football to Montreal after the longest time, and I'm sure you guys, it didn't go as you wanted it to in the playoffs, but to have basically a full house at Percival Molson, you know, almost 21,000 there in the stands.
Yeah,
it was. I'm sure you guys as players just loved being able to hear and to play in front of all the fans that you did.
Yeah, it was great energy for sure. And, you know, other than winning the Grey Cup, there's no other way I'd rather go out playing.
Yeah.
What about with your own bobblehead, which also came out during the game?
Actually, I think I got one too. That was a sweet bobblehead. They said I'm the only bobblehead with a visor on. Crazy.
I mean, how crazy is that? Like, what, like when they come to you and say we're making a bobblehead of you, like what goes through your head right away?
I was like, wow, finally. After 13 years, I finally get something. No, it was good. Like, that thing they told me, like, actually they told me, like, right when the season about to start. So I was like, okay, so you ain't going to cut me. I gotta be here for Bobble giveaway day.
At least let you get to that point.
Yeah.
And then and that along with another special thing that happened in 2019 was a store called Off the Hook, and they had a John Bowman night, and they made some T-shirts and stuff. And I love Angelo and Harry and those guys at Off the Hook. That was special too. So. There's a lot of great things that happened in 2019.
If I remember correctly, too, John, I think in the history that the Owls have been doing that type of promo, you are in great company because AC was the only other one I think on the team who had his made. So you and AC have your only bobblehead. So
listen, I'll love to be in that limelight any day.
That's some pretty rarefied air. I mean, like right there. I mean, if that doesn't cement your legend status.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't cement your legend status, John, I don't know what will.
Now that's like 33 years of football, 34.
Obviously, John, you were known for your defensive prowess. Where you stand in the all-time greats when it comes to career sacks and stuff. But one thing you never had really been able to celebrate was your first ever defensive interception back in 2019.
Yeah.
What was it? I mean, we did expect, defensive players to get, an interception here or there, but for you, it was your what ended up being your last.
It's crazy because I've actually dropped like 3 or 4, but a lot of I would have thought had an interception. I had an interception before, but it was in a playoff game, so nobody remembers it. But it was against BC. We blew the doors off of BC that year. They had Lee. I can't remember his name. Tracy Lee. I don't remember the quarterback. No, Casey Prentice.
Yeah, Casey Prentice.
We beat the brakes off of the bat. I had an interception that game, but nobody remembers it because in the playoffs. But no, it was a good feeling. Shout out to Fabian Foote for harassing the guy back there, and I actually gave the ball to my dad in that game. So, shouts out to him.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like he had one in the playoffs already. We have to give him a regular season one. We got to remember. I guess we have to remember that one the most.
Yeah, it's crazy. The playoff one was for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody remembers the 44-yard touchdown I had. I guess we were up by like 40 points, so an extra 6 didn't matter.
Good old garbage time touchdowns, right?
I loved it. It was like one of the last plays of the game too. It was great.
Yeah. Now, during your career too in Montreal, you also became, I would say, a pretty big thing for your fashion. You are one of the best dressed men I have seen. Was it something that was always all John Bowman, or was it somebody who had a hand in saying? Giving you your style and you made it your own. How did you?
No, I definitely. I thought I could dress before I got here. I just didn't have a lot of clothes. Mm-hmm. But when I got here, and and she's gonna love this. I'll send her the recording once you guys are done. This lady by the name of Irene Dracos, and she seen me and Biscuit walking down the street, and she's like, "Hey, guys, I'm looking for some football players to wear my clothes." They had a brand. It was Sean John's brand at the time, and she's like, "Hey, come wear my clothes, whatever." And so she definitely had a hand in helping me discover my fashion. But also just Instagram and stuff like that has helped push it out to the limelight. But because I always dressed up. If people look at, well, I guess since my Instagram got hacked, my pictures are gone. But I had pictures on Instagram from back in 2010, 11, 12, from when I used to dress up for games. But it just now, I guess, because it just now became good to be on social media, it just got into the limelight.
Yeah. Wow.
It's about that drip, as they say.
That's what the kids call it.
That's right. That's right. So, John, for all intents and purposes, you're pretty much retired now. I mean, unfortunately, your last season was supposed to be 2020, but obviously with COVID-19, you were denied the opportunity to sort of finish things off on your terms. Talk to us about now post-retirement. Like, how do you feel, even though you're still part of the league as far as being part of the Players Association, but now that you've actually stepped away from the game, what have been your thoughts as far as post-football John Bowman?
Yeah, so well, actually, I haven't even got the chance to start that yet. Just dealing with trying to get the league going, being a part of the being vice president of the union and being part of the bargaining committee. Like I've had to do a lot of things for that role. But post football me is like right now I'm on vacation and I'm interviewing for a district sales manager position for a company down here that manufactures steel products. Yeah, so like it's getting back to work. I mean, I play in the CFL, so it's like very few are retiring millionaires, that don't have to work. So it's just back to the grind, trying to find my way, trying to find my next steps in life.
Would you ever consider like a career in coaching or broadcasting or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. It's just like, well, as far as the CFL, I can't because I'm a union representative, so I can't handle both jobs. But I kind of like want to step away from football for a bit, see if I can do something else. But if things happen and somebody called me, if Marcus Brady and Frank Wright called me and say, "Hey, John, I want you to be the assistant D-line coach for the Colts," I can't turn that down. But that's right now I just want to relax, get away from football for a bit, and just have a good time.
And
all right.
You made a name for yourself, anyways. I think didn't you were on a couple of frequently on a couple of radio shows here in Montreal. So you made a name for yourself technically in broadcasting, right?
Yeah, I mean, a few people people like my energy. They like my interviews. I actually got a couple years ago. They thought I was going to retire. I don't know what gave them that assumption, but they thought I was going to retire, and they offered me. They wanted me to interview for the Friday Night Football or Football on TSN panel, but I kept playing, and but I don't know how things are now with them and hiring and what are they going to do as far as filling slots and spots for sports coming back, especially the CFL in 2020.
Well, I know too that the Alouettes radio broadcaster still hasn't announced their play-by-play in color, man. Hey, let's get you back. Let's get you get you back on the field. Radio booth.
Rick Moffitt, that's hard shoes to fill, and I think Marco is still might be color. I don't know what's happening with there, but if they want to fly me up every week to do that, I'll do it.
There you go. We speak into existence.
During your career, John, obviously, if you don't go through a career without an injury, you are the luckiest player in the world. But there always seems to be something that your body breaks down, something happens. At any time during your career, was there one specific injury? Because you mentioned it earlier in the interview about some of the injuries that you had. What injury did you ever have during your career which made you think your football career may have been over earlier than you wanted it to be?
Well, before, like earlier than I wanted. When I got hurt a couple years ago, I already thought my career was over. But I guess when I was younger, I want to say like year 8 or 9, I think I tore some cartilage in my ribs, and like I had to get a shot before every game. Like not a lot of people knew, whatever. I just put a pad over it and played, but that lingered because everything you did, from torquing and turning and laughing and sneezing, everything was painful. And I knew it would heal one day, but it took a long time to heal. So that was kind of a sucky situation. I never thought my career was going to be over. It just sucked. And in 2012, where I blew my knee out, I kind of thought it was worse than what it was. Luckily for me, it was the best of all evils, and it was just an MCL and a quick 2-hour surgery and 4 or 5 weeks out, and I was back. But I never really had career-threatening injuries, just nagging injuries.
How were you able to play? Because we were both, Cliff and I, remember you mentioned it too, when you tore your muscle in your arm. How were you able to come back? So we saw, I think you're out hardly any time, because when we saw you go off the field, I remember saying to Cliff and to my friend next to me, it's like, John doesn't look too good, but I think it was in a couple of weeks you were back, much more bandaged than you normally were. But how were you able to? I mean, I'm sure there's pain that goes into it. How are you able to come back from something like that in such a quick period of time?
I mean, it's pain management for sure. Yeah. And then like assurances that, like I couldn't make it worse, it was kind of one of those things too that factored into it. I just like playing. Like when you get to that point in your career, it's like, how many do you have left? And if I would have set out, I think it was like initially they was thinking about putting me in the 6th game, and I told them no. But if I'd have set out 6 games, I would have missed, what was the year before I retired. So, they just say, hey, if you don't think it's going to be a long-term injury, let us know now. We won't put you in the 6th game, and we'll take good care of you. So, like, I think 2 weeks later, I think I heard it against Hamilton. I missed 2 games, and I came back, and it was pretty good.
Walking wounded, but you just like a Timex watch. You take a beating and take a licking and keep on ticking.
Yeah.
John, what about in the locker room itself? I mean, the camaraderie is second to none. You're in there with your brothers, you're fighting, and you're going to war together. But how about off the field? Like, when you guys want to go and just have fun, like who are the guys that you can always count on to go out after the game or after practice, whatever, and you're going to have a good time, not get in trouble necessarily, but just have a good time?
I mean, it varied in stages. So like when I first got to Montreal, it was actually crazy, but the backup quarterback at the time was like, his name was Nealon, and so like Nealon was like the only person we knew with a car. And he wasn't getting in the games anyway, so he was like, yeah, let's go out, let's go have a good time. And so after the games, and we had a pretty good record at the time. I think we started off like 7-0 in 2006. So like he used to take us out or whatever. Then I got a little older. I started hanging with Stu, and we would go upscale partying, I guess. So we wouldn't be in the club so much. We'd go to like happy hours and stuff like that. But by the end of my career, like I was going up by myself, because like these guys, like the age difference between, I had teammates who were 22 years old. I was 37. Like we had nothing in common. Like I'd go out with like I want to say like BJ from time to time, because he was a neighbor. We'd go sit on a terrace, have a drink or some food, and I'd come back home. I'd be home by 7. These my D linemen, I love them. They were trying to do D line movie nights at, let's go to the 9:30 movie. Boys, there's no way. So like we'd go to the movies right after practice when I wanted to go. So we'd go to the matinee. Definitely had a great time with everybody. Just like everything, you get a little older and your taste for things change, but we always did D-line night. We go out and eat, or we'd go to a game room and have a good time. So it was never like everybody always had a good time, and it was never like one person, but it was just a bit of everybody. Like you said, the camaraderie in the locker room is just lively. And when you're winning some games and you're feeling good from your production on the field, it kind of makes your everyday life better too. So.
Can't beat that.
Yeah.
We've asked players too before. Obviously, the locker room's better. At least that's what we think as fans. that the locker room atmosphere would be better when a team is winning. Are there any things that fans need to know that are maybe a little misleading, saying that if you're losing, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the locker room that's the issue? You know what I'm trying to say? Is that win or lose, I mean, how are the ebb and flows of the locker room during a team that may not be doing as well than, say, when you go to the Grey Cup?
Yeah, I mean, winning and losing shouldn't determine the temperament of your locker room. Like, your locker room should be steady. It should be like a place for everyone to go hang out, mingle, whatever. If your locker room has ebbs and flows, then it's more than just a football thing. It's a people thing. So, like, for the most part, in my 14 years with the team, the locker room remained steady. We had times where guys got into fisticuffs, but it was never a daily thing. Like, I can only think of probably 1 year where the locker room, it sucked to be in the locker room. Like, we couldn't wait to get out of there, get in and get out, go to practice and then leave immediately. So your locker room needs to remain consistent no matter what your production on the field. And for the most part, the Alouettes locker room stayed gelled. Like, we always had a nice mix of veterans and young guys to show us how to use Twitter and such like that. But football, when you lose, it doesn't make your locker room suck, but you're not having as much fun. Right. Like, we're not going to the locker room popping Pepsis and playing loud music and just living it up. But we didn't go in there and badmouth each other either. It wasn't constant fighting either.
Okay. Because obviously fans can be Monday morning quarterback. I'm sure you've met a few that have been Monday morning quarterbacks, and I'm sure you're hearing a fan. Obviously, you're trying to be as nice to them as possible. But I'm sure there are a few times in your head where you're thinking to yourself, "Man, you really don't know what's happening."
Yeah, I mean, on more than a few occasions, like I say, but unless you've been in the locker room, and not just a locker room, because college and high school or university in Canada and high school and CJEP is all different from professional. Like, this is what we do for a living. Like, you generally have the option to like or not like somebody in the pro, because somebody gets paid more, or you don't get paid enough, or the coach likes him because he does this. Like, in college, everybody's on the same playing field. Yeah. So, like, unless you've been in a professional locker room, like, you can't go off what media or what fans say, because they don't know. Like, they really don't know. It's a lot of, every time teams loses or whatever, going on the losing streak, they're against the coach, they're not fighting for the coach. Well, I mean, players don't play for coaches anyway. You play their system, you play hard. But, like, I love Tressman, I love Jim Pop, I love the Don Matthews, I love Mike Sinclair, but not ones that I say, I'm gonna play for them. Like, no, I played for my teammates, and I played for my family, and I played for the city, but, like, I didn't play for a specific coach. And any good coach would tell you, don't play for me, play for each other. And that's what we did.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit here. What made you decide to move to Montreal full time? Like, after you started playing for the Alouettes, at what point did you decide, I got to stay here year round?
Well, I would come home. I think I came home for a brief minute in 2000, and after the 2006 season, I had just re-signed. We went to the Grey Cup. So 2007, I'm just sitting at home doing nothing. Like, the atmosphere sucks. Like, nobody in my hometown plays pro ball. So, like, I didn't have anybody to train and push me. Like, I was just working out, going through the motions. And then I called Jim Pop, and I was like, "Hey, man, do y'all got anything going on in Canada right now? Because, like, I'm just sitting home bored." And he's like, "Yeah, we do off-season program where guys work out, and I think it was called Velocity at the time." And he's like, "You're more than welcome to come up here. We lived in the West Island, and you can train, whatever, be around a couple guys." So that's what I did my first couple years. And then Anwar Stewart pulled me to the side. And he's like, hey, if you want to make it tough for the team to cut you, you entrench yourself in the community. So if anything ever goes wrong, the rumblings will make it so hard for them to cut or release you because the city loves you. And so I started doing Adopt the Alouette program, where we go talk in schools, and did about 400 plus school visits and stuff like that. So probably like in 2006, well, actually when I first got to Montreal, I never really came back home. I came home for a little bit in 2006, and then, well, after 2006, and then from 2007 on, I stayed up there year round, and I just come home for like a week or 2 weeks, and then I come back to Montreal.
Wow. And now that you're no longer a Montrealer, unfortunately, what's the one thing you're going to miss most about Montreal itself?
Well, I'll keep it PG.
Fair enough.
Just the diversity. Like Montreal is just a melting pot of everything, and not just not just the people, but the food, the cultures, the nightlife. Just the city is a buzz, and it's hard to explain to people who's never been to Montreal, because in the U.S., only thing we think about when we think of Canada, well, in my area, was Toronto. Like, we always heard of Toronto, but we never heard of Montreal. But just the people, the food, the atmosphere, everything, the whole total of Montreal is going to be missed by me. Poutine from Mapul Mouillet is amazing.
And how I don't know if you've heard about this, but Ramado's is closed.
Yeah, that's sad, man. I saw it on Twitter. Broke my heart. That started me into the Portuguese chicken crave. That was my spot. 25, 26 years, 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sad day. And, unfortunately, like, that's not the first Montreal institution to go down. Like, Moishes went down earlier last year. A couple other restaurants, prominent restaurants, just didn't open back up because of coronavirus. So there's a lot of stuff that Montreal has changed. It's sad.
I was wondering maybe if that was the real reason you decided to head back home. No more Ramados. I'm out. Gotta dip.
You spent so much time here in Montreal and in Canada and in Quebec. I at least have to ask you, of all the places that you were, I'm curious to know, besides Montreal, what other place in Quebec will you remember the most?
Oh, man.
How much travel did you get to do while you were here?
I actually did a lot more because I stayed there year round. Yeah. But, like Quebec City is special. Like their energy, we brought the Grey Cup there, and their energy for just everything is off the chains. Where else did I go? I've been to Laval. That doesn't really count. But I'll just say Quebec City, because I didn't venture off too much into Quebec, because a lot of it, like, the further from the city you go, the more French it is. But Quebec City is special, man. Like, the energy in that city, again, the town, the atmosphere is beautiful. Women there also, but it's a good city too.
Did you find I know you've been taking French lessons for years, and I know you still feel like it's rudimentary at best, but do you feel like you could have done more with the opportunity to learn the French, or is it just something that I'll try it and see what happens?
Well, I did the best I could, Well, I didn't. I'm lying. I could have done. You can always do more, but I actually je comprends plus que je parle, but I just like whatever. It's so hard when you don't know everything, because you like one verb or one word can change 8 different ways from the initial verb. If it's more than one person, if it's in, on, or around, like it's tough. You gotta know the sex of the sexuality of things. Like, I don't know. How do I know if the office is a male or female? Like, I don't know. And so it's definitely a tough language. You know, I had fun. My French teacher still messages me today. She said, even though like I'm probably like a grade 3 level French, that's more than a lot of that's more than a lot of Americans. So I'll still be able to impress some people.
There you go. That's I've always said that bonjour, merci. Like, I mean, that goes a long way here. And
during your career, now we're talking about just in Quebec itself. When it came to the cities that you played in, when you guys were the away team, in your opinion, which city was your favorite to go to, and which city was your least favorite to go to?
Vancouver. Like, Vancouver by far is my favorite road city. It's the atmosphere, the energy. It was a drive. Like, my dad drove up, so I got to hang out with my dad. Same reasons for Montreal. The culture is different. There's a lot of different food options, which is always good for me. And it also had a small taste of America. You know, like, I could go into a sneaker shop. This is before Montreal had got like sneaker stores like that outside of just Foot Locker. Like, you can go into a store and look for a pair of Jordans and stuff like that. But Vancouver by far is my favorite road city. Least favorite, it's a tie between Hamilton, Saskatchewan, and Edmonton. All three of those places stink.
It's funny that you say Edmonton versus Calgary. I understand Regina because it's a small city. You know, Hamilton is a steel town. The stadium's in the middle of houses.
Yeah.
Edmonton, I've never been to Edmonton. Cliffy could probably speak to it, but why those particular cities?
Yeah, I mean, well, the Saskatchewan and Hamilton speak for itself. But like Edmonton, like, for a big city, for like Edmonton, like the second biggest mall in North America, for like the millions of people in this town, there's nothing to do. Like, it's like we stay downtown, obviously. At like 5:01, there's nobody on the streets. You know what I mean? Like, we sitting downtown. There's nothing to do. Like, not even as far as partying. There's just doesn't feel like there's a culture in the city. There's no atmosphere in the downtown area. Like, I haven't been outside of downtown Edmonton, so I can't speak to the area surrounding the downtown core. But the downtown core of Edmonton is just lacking for a major city in a city with two professional teams. Like, it's just lacking.
Can confirm, because I do have to go to Edmonton. I got family out there, and you're absolutely right. Like, the downtown core, it feels like they just roll up the streets at 5:00. Like you said, it's almost like a government town. It's unbelievable. Yeah,
the downtown core is just crazy. I mean, the single tax is great. I love that about Alberta, but the downtown core of Edmonton it isn't good. And surprisingly, Winnipeg, I liked Winnipeg. It was just crazy. Like, not a lot of people like Winnipeg. The city, like, it's small, but there's like a couple things to do with a few people. Like, everything always feels packed and lively. Like, I remember we played the Grey Cup there in 2006. It felt like we was there every week in 2006. We played there 2006, 2007. I probably played there in Winnipeg like 8 times. But it felt like it was a buzz. It wasn't many things to do, but the little things that there were to do, it was packed. It was just a good time.
And I'm guessing you made it out to Portage in Maine also.
For sure. Once or twice.
If you didn't, did you really go to Winnipeg?
Exactly. Exactly.
John, I'm curious, why the number 7?
Actually, it was like I wanted to get number 8, and true story, 2009, Brady had retired, and so I was like, hey, I'm going to get number 8. And then Kerry Carter was wearing number 7, and he went to Pop and said, hey, I want to change the 8. and Papa let him get it before me. I was like, he got a sweet number already. And like me, I've always had 8 in my numbers. Like I was 88 in college, 88 in high school. Everywhere I played, I tried to have an 8 associated with my number. And I was 48 in Montreal. I was actually 58 for a week. Glad nobody took pictures of that. And so I went to Papa, say, hey, let me get number 8. He's like, hey, Kerry already asked. I think he played one more year at the time than I did. So they gave it to him. And I was like, okay, what number's available? So he's like, well, you can get Kerry's old number. So I picked up 7.
All right. And now it's probably going to be weird. I'm really hoping, like, there's a new equipment manager in Montreal, and he may not know you from a hole in the wall, so I don't know if they're going to have that significance. I really hope that they have a bit of a moratorium on the number 7, because it's going to be weird as hell to see someone else wearing 7 now.
and you know, I've had this discussion, and they said that nobody's going to wear it again, but who knows? And somebody on Twitter, we had a good discussion. He's like, they asked me, why do I think number 7 isn't my number? Like, it's the team's number. Like, so if they choose to retire it, give it to somebody, or keep it on ice for a little bit, they can do whatever they want. As players, you know, we just play. Like, they could have gave me 97 and said, hey, no, you can't change your number to 7. I'm forced to wear it. So, like, I don't dictate what's going to happen with that number. If they give it away next year, fine. They haven't retired Chip's number. But they also have not had anybody in it. I saw this year. I think somebody sent me a post that somebody's actually going to wear number 11. But we'll see what happens. But if they choose to give it to somebody, like, it's I can't do nothing about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, there should at least be a moratorium, because I mean, like, I know it's tough, especially with retiring numbers, because especially in football too, there's so many positions that have numbers.
99 of them. Well, in Canada, you get 101 of them. From 0 to 00.
That's true. Yeah. Wow. I mean, this has been an incredible journey, John. When you think back at your career now, what's the one thing that's going to make you smile the most besides winning those Grey Cups?
Just like meeting the people I've met. You know, like I mentioned, like Chip Cox, for instance, who plays 13 years with one guy on the same team. Like, you know, in any sport, I mean, I was the best man for Anwar Stewart. You know, me and Billy Parker, we owned properties together. Like, we talk every day, damn near, to this day. Even when he was coaching me, you know, we still had our bond. We treated professionally and such, though. You know, Marcus Brady, who helped bring me to the CFL, you know, being my roommate, now seeing him being the first or one of the few black offensive coordinators in the NFL. Avon, you know, who's a silent hero for our Grey Cup champions. You know, me and him scrapping to make the team in 2006, you know, running down on kickoffs together, having each other's back. You know, that's what you miss the most. Like, I'm not going to miss getting up and hitting and waking up at 6:30 just to go to practice and get the snot knocked out of my nose. Like, I'm not going to miss that. I'm going to miss sitting down with my boys during practice or after the game and talking about something other than football, you know, because, you know, whether people know it or not, we have other interests. So, like, just kicking it, chopping up, watching basketball or going shopping or, you know, seeing who got the best outfit for the day, you know, things like that. That's the kind of things I'm going to miss the most.
That's true. And you'd be hard pressed to find another work environment that would offer even close to a similar experience. Yeah,
no, it's hard. And you know, it's a lot of athletes, and I don't know yet, but I'm just going off what I heard. When they get out of the game, it's just hard to replicate that locker room feeling. And, you know, one of my favorite coaches of all time, Mike Sinclair, who played in the NFL for a long, long time, he said, he's like, you're gonna do things to chase that feeling. Just know, like, you will never find that feeling again. The closest thing you're gonna get to that feeling is coaching. So I've heard all of the tales from post-career players who tell me, like, there's nothing else like playing football, and it's not lining up playing football. It's the hanging with, learning your homeboys, hanging out with your homeboys, getting to learn each other, and doing stuff other than football together. That's what brings teams together.
Again, we can't thank you enough for doing this for us. I mean, like I said, it was an absolute trip.
Yeah, and I appreciate every one of you guys, man. Like, one thing I can say about my time in the CFL, even on road games, fans kind of appreciated what I did, partly because, like, I didn't look super muscular, I wasn't super fast, I just worked. And a regular guy on the street can say, oh, if I just work, I can be like John Bowman. So I'm probably one of the most relatable guys to ever play football. Guys can just see themselves doing what I do. So I really appreciate every moment I've had in the CFL. Just walking through the city, giving me love and appreciation, and it's been a blast. Yeah, I wouldn't change it.
Whew, my goodness, what an experience! What an experience! There's just no other way to put it. My gosh, I mean, folks, he left it all out there, just like he did every single game day. John Bowman left it all out there for us here in this interview, and it was such an absolute honor and privilege to be able to talk to John, not just about his football career. That in and of itself was definitely would be worth the price of admission alone. But to hear him talk about life, talk about his experiences in Montreal, and now unfortunately having him go back to America to find out what the next chapter of his life involves. I mean, we pretty much we put it all out there, and I can't thank John enough for coming on the flight deck to talk with us and share his experiences here in Montreal. And Lord knows we're going to miss him. It's so weird to think that he's not going to be a part of this Montreal landscape anymore, but such is life. And John's always welcome back here anytime he wants, and it was just an absolute treat to be able to sit and talk with him.
Exactly. I mean, and for those of you who just knew John Bowman, the Montreal Alouettes, to actually hear and to hear his story about how he went from indoor football and to have the ties that he did to current to players that came up here, and how he was convinced to come up here and play the Canadian game. It was just one of those decisions that if he had said no and decided to do whatever he was going to do, we may have never known John as a player, but and he would have made a name for himself. So he is one of those guys that no matter how long you follow the Alouettes, you will always remember the name John Bowman. And I would not be surprised, I'm just speculating here, Cliff, that very short period of time, I would not be surprised if we see his number retired for the Montreal Alouettes.
Well, if anyone deserves, I mean, like, when I think back of so many Alouettes that have played in Montreal here for so many seasons like John did, and their number is not retired, it's always kind of weird to think about. I mean, that's the thing with retiring numbers too, is that especially in football, there's so many numbers and only so many to go around, and so many numbers get used and retired and all that. So it's such a weird dichotomy. But the idea of someone else wearing number 7 right now, I can't even wrap my head around it, quite frankly. And I don't want to. And I really hope that the Alouettes really do, if they don't retire the number, at least put it like sort of a moratorium on it, just to just to shelve it as sort of a tribute, if you will, to a great, not just football player, but a great man as well.
Makes me wonder that if he actually does go to the Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it that all the players that are currently in the Alouettes, what do we call it, Wall of Fame,
Ring of Honor,
they are all in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame?
I believe they are, yes.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But again, it was our pleasure to be speaking with him, and we hope you guys enjoyed the interview. You can go back and listen to our other player-specific interviews by going back into the history of the Alouettes Flight Deck, you can do so by heading over to alouettesflightdeck.ca. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Or you can check any of your social media aggregates, your podcast aggregates. And we will be getting some of these interviews, or at least portions of these interviews, up on our YouTube channel. So just be patient. So we really appreciate your time. And once we get back when you come listen to us again, try that again. When you hear from us again, we'll be talking about the current 2021 season and the Alouettes run to the 2021 Grey Cup. So for everybody here at Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.